You've got buyers that are on the sidelines saying, I'm going to wait for interest rates to drop before I buy a house. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the math on that to help them understand whether it's actually a good deal and are the savings, if there are any, worth it to wait another year or perhaps longer before making that home purchase. So did you have any of those people who said, hey, I'm going to wait until after the election to buy a house, right? And maybe some people have been saying now that the election is over, because if you did have those people that said, I'm going to wait till after the election, you should be giving them a call. But there's a lot of people too have said, well, I'm going to wait for interest rates to come down. They're really waiting on that. They think that interest rates are going to drop dramatically. Look, I don't think we're going to be having interest rates like we did a few years ago where things were down in the 3% range. There was a lot of kind of chaotic things going on that led to that. I would be shocked if that kind of came up again. But I wanted to give you an idea of how you could walk people through the math of how we can actually analyze whether waiting to see if interest rates are going to come down is actually going to be financially beneficial. Is that really going to save you any money? And if so, how much money are we really talking about? So let's run some numbers here and figure out what home prices are today, what they might be a year from now, what interest rates are today, what they might be a year from now, and then kind of calculate out how much that might save somebody if we do see a little bit of a drop in interest rates. So first things first, I'm going to make a little bit of a grid here to figure out what we're actually looking at. So we're going to have kind of a row here of today, and then we're going to have a row here for 1 year from now, right? And what we want to look at are a few different things. We want to look at our interest rates, right? See what we might be today, what we might be a year from now. We want to look at the actual, let's say the dollar value of the home. And then we're going to look at per month to see how these things might change over the course of the next year, and see, as somebody who waits about a year because they want to see the interest rates go down, are they really going to save that much money? Let's find out. All right, so let's see where things are today to kind of get a starting point. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the value of homes on the market today, kind of what we're seeing. And I'm going to go to NAR RPR here, and I'm going to search for residential market trends just to get a quick little snapshot of what things look like today. And I'm just going to look at Oklahoma County, right? You can pull up a particular city or a county, and there's a lot of different options here. You can look at property values, listings on average. The active listing price is about 317 to 18,000. I'm going to come down here to pending listings, right? So for the month of October, we see the pending listings as 259.9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here to my grid, and I'm going to we're just going to round it up here to $260,000 is the median price right now for pending listings. So that gives us a pretty good start. But then we need to come back and figure out, okay, well, how much are interest rates today? Well, I'm just going to Google, what are interest rates today? This should be easy enough to figure out. And we're seeing somewhere 30-year mortgage, 6.86, 6.942. Okay, so we're just going to take a little average there, 6.9. So I'll come back in, plug in my 6.9%. And now this gives us a starting point to where we can figure out what that's going to cost per month. Now, of course, we're not factoring in all the various other things like insurance costs and so forth. But what we can do is figure out exactly what this might be, just principal and interest here. So I'll come back and I'm going to use this website called calculatorsoup.com. They have like hundreds of different calculators you can use. It's pretty cool. So I'll just do a basic mortgage calculator. We're going to put in $260,000, and we've got our interest rate of 6.9, and that's going to calculate out $1,712 is going to be about our average monthly rate. So now we have to figure out, okay, someone says, well, I get that. This is going to cost me about $1,700 a month just on my principal and interest, but I want to wait a year and see what happens. Great, we can make some assumptions about what might happen down here. And that's going to start with, first of all, what is it actually going to cost to buy a house next year, right? Well, one of the things we can look at is if we come back here to our just search here, how much do home prices go up each year? And Google's going to give us our little summary here. And, we can get some different information here. This says the 2022, the price index increased about 4.8%. Of course, in recent years, it's been kind of crazy. Home values increased by 6.2 last year, according to Bankrate here in Oklahoma. There's a lot of different numbers that you see. Look, we can search this in different ways. Average home price increase per year. I misspelled that. That's okay. And here we go. We see, based on historical data from 92 to 2004, it's around 4.6. Cool. Well, then let's go back to our calculators here, right? And what we need to do then is figure out, based on our current price of $260,000, if we have a 4.6% increase, well, then I'm going to multiply this times 1.046 to get us a 4.6% increase. And that's going to take us up to $271,960. All right, well, that's pretty significant, right? We can kind of see, if we do the difference down here, what that will look like when we run those numbers in the end to see what we're actually saving. But we've seen already a substantial increase of almost $12,000, right? Well, now we got to make some assumptions about our interest rate, because what's our interest rate going to be 1 year from now? Well, let's assume we have a full 1% drop in interest rates next year and see what that looks like. So if we come back here to our calculators, we'll take a look at our mortgage calculator. And now, while we had 260, now we have to do the 271,960, because a year from now, home prices are going to go up by 4.5%, right? Could be more, could be less, but we got to make an assumption somewhere to see if this actually makes sense. And if we assume there was a 5.9% interest rate, a full 1% reduction, well, okay, we're at 1613. Now, when we look at that number, that 1613 does equal a difference of about $100 per month savings. Well, that's not bad. That's something. And the question is that worth it over the next year? But let's make some other assumptions, because assuming that we're going to have a full 1% interest rate drop over the next year, I mean, who the heck knows? So instead, maybe we look at a 0.5%. How does that shake out? So instead of 6.9, we're going to see 6.4% interest rates. We'll do somewhere in the middle. Well, that gets us to 1701. Okay, well, 1701, that's not looking quite so much, is it? Now we've only got, what is that, an $11 difference per month? So to save $120 per year, we're going to wait a whole year to buy the house because we're waiting on the interest rates to drop. Maybe that's not worth it, right? If you think it's a good idea to understand this math to help a buyer analyze whether it's a good idea to go ahead and buy now or wait, then hit that like button and subscribe, and that'll let me know that this math is helping you out. So what we can do with this is start to plug in some numbers and say, okay, well, look, yeah, you might save some money per month. The home value is going to go up 4.5%, maybe more, maybe less. And depending on what their assumptions are, it may not make any sense. And here's the deal. We've actually seen interest rates continue to go up despite the fact that we have the Fed cutting interest rates. We don't necessarily see that directly tied to the reduction in a mortgage rate, because the mortgage rates are based on a number of different factors, not just the Fed rate that they're charging. Now, that's a whole other video that we can look at about where these mortgage rates come from and how they're tied to the Fed rate and all that. But the bottom line is, if you're working with these buyers who say, I want to wait, maybe you could have another discussion with them and go a little bit deeper to say, hey, how long are you planning on waiting for? Because let's make sure that it makes sense. Because if you're thinking about buying today, a year from now, it may or may not be a better deal. It may actually make sense to go ahead and buy today if you want to do that, and that it's lowering interest rate with the increasing of costs of buying a home may not make much sense. So perhaps it's better to go ahead and start that search today. Here's the bottom line. I want you to be an expert on how you walk buyers and sellers through these kinds of analysis, because this can really help to show your expertise. So even if they do decide to wait, when they are ready to buy, they're going to come back to you because you're the expert on the real estate transaction, which includes everything from interest rates and monthly rates and all these sorts of things. So be that expert, learn how to do math, basic stuff like this, and that'll help serve you as you help clients in the future. Listen, if you think it's valuable to really understand compliance and contracts and to go a little bit deeper on things like we are on This Math Today, then we would love to have you as a member of our community, our Pro Access, where we have over 80 real estate professionals that have come together for a space to have valuable question and answer places, monthly live training, and access to exclusive templates and contract forms. Then check it out over at ourproaccess.com, see if it might fit you.